Bonjour. How are we? Guys, I'm trying to cover this, but like... How are we? I'm gonna hopefully have a new video up today, but I just thought I would come on while I'm doing my makeup. And what's the tea? 5 a.m. Oh my gosh. Are you getting up or are you going to bed right now? Guys, what's been happening? What's the gossip? Getting up. I respect it. You know, my dream is to be an early riser. I'm not there yet. Do you guys have any topic requests as well for videos? Let me know. I just wake up whenever my insomnia is like, oh my god. Am I gonna get copyrighted for having music playing in the background? I'm like monitoring this mix before I send it off to be posted, so. I've been talking about managing adult friendships on my Patreon recently. We can discuss that here. Today I'm going to be working from home and editing YouTube, hopefully, and then I have poll. I would like videos on friendship and making them, especially when you're out in the school environment. Yeah. I think that the most important thing with being an adult and coming out of school and making friends is to figure out what you enjoy and to do it. Okay, don't wait for your circumstances to change. Change your circumstances. You need to regulate your emotions. You need to learn to prioritize things that you enjoy doing rather than waiting for someone to tell you what to do, okay? So like when you're in school, you're told what to do, you're on the school's program, and then you go into adulthood, you don't have a program unless you go into a job, the job tells you the program, but your job can only cover like so much of your time and energy. So I think that the biggest lesson for me as I got older was how important it is to follow your own curiosity. Because I was lucky that when I was in school, I enjoyed a lot of the subjects that I was studying. So being told what I needed to do was like okay in that context because I really enjoyed learning, not every subject, but most of the subjects. And then when I got into university, I hated every subject that I studied pretty much. So I completely lost my connection to my curiosity and learning. I was lucky that I started DJing in that time. So that gave me like a creative outlet, but realistically and looking back, it was like only a very small amount of my creative energy was being utilized in that context. And only when I was starting to leave university did I start to think about exploring other creative avenues like photography, etc., etc. Hi, babe. And yeah, I think, you know, as I've gotten out of university, with the ups and downs, the flops and the slays that come with it, the biggest lesson was to maintain connection to your curiosity, prioritizing the things that make you happy, prioritizing the relationships that make you happy, learning to look after yourself. You know, in a way that's sustainable and not like super militant either. Oh my God, enjoy Paris. So yeah, finding a strict but flexible program to live by. I'm glad that you're out of university too, babes. Congratulations. But yeah, I think if you maintain that baseline, then you're just naturally going to be open to meeting new people, different experiences, different opportunities. And then you also need to discern who are you actually compatible with and what is just like not going to be for the best, you know. Only you can really know that. So my whole approach to making friends is not like go to these types of places and do these kinds of things and say hello to these kinds of people. It's like manage your own state first so that you're naturally in like a version of your best self when you're out in the world, and then you meet people and attract from that place, not from your insecure self or your neurotic, anxious self, you know. And obviously like those parts of you exist as well, but it's just noticing like how you're meeting people, in what context you're meeting people. Because when I was like in a more insecure state, I ended up in friendships that exacerbated my insecurity or like didn't help me to manage the insecurity. You know, if anything, they fed off the insecurity, you know, because like a lot of the times when you're insecure, you don't even realize that you are, because it's just like your constant state of being. So when you don't work on yourself first, you're going to be a sponge to anyone, toxic people included. Exactly. Bye, babe. Thanks for joining. So yeah, it's not like you have to be perfect or you have to be happy all the time, but it's learning to prioritize and take initiative in maintaining your own happiness and joy, rather than waiting for a relationship or a friendship or a job to do that for you, you know? So it's not like you need to be in a constant state of ecstasy. It's just like, oh, you feel like a level of contentment and peace that you feel you need to protect, and you protect it by knowing which relationships you invest in or, you know, make an effort in. Some relationships you'll realize like, okay, you can only really engage in this limited context, and that's okay. You know, you don't have to only be friends with people that you feel that you are compatible with in a perfect way. It's that you can manage your attention according to the compatibility, you know. More compatible friendships will get more of your time and attention. Less compatible friendships, you can just enjoy them in the context where they're the most fun and then disengage in the other ones, you know. And be okay with the fact that people might do that to you as well. I'm in that right now about friendships while insecure, and none of the bonds have proved to be sustainable. Yeah, I'm pulling an all-nighter. My exams a few hours. Pray for me. Good luck. Yeah, and I think, you know, I've been in situations where I've had to kind of distance myself from a lot of relationships because I didn't feel like I was able to grow the way that I wanted to and needed to in order to become like more confident. Like my attempts to do that were constantly being questioned or interrogated because those friendships were essentially based on like me being an insecure version of myself. You know, they were only comfortable with the version of me that they met that was more compliant or less assertive, and the more assertive that I became, the less compatible I was with those relationships. And it didn't mean that I didn't care about them or that it wasn't disappointing to have to do that or to come to that realization, but it was essential and necessary in the process of growth, you know. And sometimes you're that person for someone else as well, you know, like whatever direction someone is going in their life is not compatible with the way that your friendship currently exists. And if you are not on the same page as them, You know, it's disappointing, but that's just how it is sometimes. I feel like the only way I have a healthy relationship with social media is by going cold turkey, and my friends find that odd, but I generally can't function while having Instagram. That's totally valid. I go on and off Instagram and TikTok all the time. Monday is my day off. I'm having that right now. I'm becoming more assertive and it's not being received well. Yeah, and I mean, if you want to be more assertive, you want to experience life as a more assertive version of you, that is completely valid, you know? Like, who is going to tell you whether that's okay or not? At the end of the day, it's your life, and you know, the price of like your new self, your new life is your old life, and that's something that not a lot of people are willing to sacrifice or accept. You know, they want to have their cake and eat it too. They want the comfort of the insecure relationships that are familiar to them, but they also want the benefits of being more assertive. But it's like, of course, in the process of becoming more assertive, your insecure relationships or the insecure parts of you aren't going to be able to follow you, you know? I used to watch it at 16, helped me so much. I'm 19, still learning a new lesson every time. Bless you! I'm a medical radiation technologist from Canada. I want to create visual arts. Do you have any advice on creating your own schedule? Honestly, I don't really, because I feel like everyone's like approach to their time and their output is going to be specific to them. So I think you need to think about when you feel like most creative and how you can kind of protect that time to make the things you want to make. And I have like a video about the creative industry and different approaches to your creativity that you can reference, so that you don't get like overwhelmed with like putting too much pressure on yourself for like a certain type of attention or a certain type of success. You know, take it one step at a time and make sure that you continue to have an income if possible, or a level of financial security. I don't mind sacrificing previous things. I've always preferred being alone over in relationships that hinder me 100%. I don't know if you remember me. I got a job. It's nothing fancy. At least it's sorted out. Oh my God, yay. I'm so glad to hear. Get that money, honey. Literally, never assume that you're above a certain type of work, especially when you're looking for a job. You know, I feel like it's really important to have like an open and abundant mindset to working and the context of work. Just because the job that you're doing now isn't the ideal job doesn't mean it's not going to lead you to your ideal job, whether directly or indirectly. Any tips with the obsession of proving people wrong? Even when I cut them off and I'm very good place in my life, I still find myself imagining proving them wrong. I mean, I think that's totally fine. Lean into it, girl. Life is hard. Women are constantly being underestimated and dismissed. I think if you are more capable than what people tend to believe that you are totally valid in the feeling of wanting to prove people wrong. Let yourself be driven by love and spite. You know what I mean? I think that in the moment, learning to self-regulate so that it's not about proving that person wrong and trying to get them to concede to you. It's about developing self-trust and being like, you know what, no matter what these bitches say, I'm gonna do what I want and I'm gonna live my life and I'm going to build on each version of me. You know, your only competition really is like the previous version of you, not all these people that are trying to prove you wrong. And most of the time they're not even trying to prove you wrong, they're trying to prove their own assumption right. Okay, it's got nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. They have an assumption that the world or their possibilities or other people's possibilities are limited to the ceiling of their mind. You being above that is threatening to them. So it's more about them proving themselves right, not proving you wrong. Okay, so that's why I don't believe in like going back and forth with people when they disagree with you, when ultimately you get nothing out of them, okay? The only thing that you are seeking in those moments are validation for your own ego, and you need to remember that your ego is a made-up concept in your mind, okay? Their ego is a made-up concept in their mind. Let them fight with themselves. Do not fight with them, because the conversation only exists between you and your ego, not between your ego and somebody else. So noticing what your ego's like vulnerable points are and learning to self-soothe when you're on your own, when you're ruminating over something. Learn to converse with yourself and to self-validate. And then when you're in situations where people are trying to prove you wrong, you can notice, okay, my desire to prove myself right or to prove them wrong is something for me to take up with the manager within, okay? That person ultimately can't do anything for me. If I'm in a conflict with someone that I want something from, okay, and usually it has to be material, like we're fighting over resources or, you know, we're working on a job together, I'm not going to be fighting from like who's right, who's wrong point of view, okay? I'm going to have to be more strategic in my communication so that I get what I want and they get what they want. And then we can get out of this situation with as little friction as possible, okay? But if you're trying to prove yourself right or prove someone else wrong and do this back and forth BS, it's just a waste of time, especially if no money is being exchanged, okay? Don't argue with people for free. And if there is something at stake, don't argue. Be strategic in your communication. You know what I mean? I'm a STEM career trying to make it as a writer. I'm in a mentorship program with a big publisher. The most important thing they've taught me is that you should spend some time every day doing that creative work, even if it's not a lot of work. Okay, I love that. Just watching your vid on adult friendships and you living in your hometown during quarantine. I'm currently going through something similar. It was so insightful hearing you work through it. Thank you so much. Oh my God, I'm so glad it helped you. I think that, you know, I was kind of lucky that my Saturn return, or my biggest flop era to date, occurred during the pandemic, okay? Because I was able to be like, well, the world's not functioning right now, so I don't need to put so much pressure on myself to be like optimizing my life according to a suboptimal situation globally, okay? That was actually like a blessing at the time, because other people might be going through their Saturn return when everything else seems okay and you feel like you're failing because you're in a flop era relative to everybody else's slay era, okay? But I think that everyone needs to go through a flop era, and one that kind of shakes your relationship with yourself and forces you to rebuild your identity and to become aware of each brick that your identity is being built on. A lot of people, when they are given the opportunity to lean into a flop era, avoid it, okay, and try to perform slaying over their flop, and it's not really working for them. It might seem like they're able to keep up with the Joneses in the short term, but long term, it slowly erodes at themselves, okay, because they don't know what their identity is being built with, what bricks are there, and they're constantly trying to like paint over and make everything seem like it's okay, but your foundation is rotten to the core, okay? So if you are going through a flop era, embrace it. Take it as an opportunity to renovate your sense of self, okay? Rather than waiting for some catastrophic thing, you can lean into the opportunity. If it's for free, don't argue. And if there's money, don't argue, just be strategic. Got it. Exactly. I feel this in my flop era in my hometown. I stayed for med school when all my friends are living elsewhere. I'm using my flop era for a spiritual awakening in this boring place. Exactly. You got this. That's what hometowns are for. You know, that's what like small isolated cities are best for. You know, there's nothing else to do. So you just gotta like think about your life, think about what you want, think about how you want to live, think about the person that you want to be. And that actually sets you up so much better for the inevitable slay, okay? For the period of your life that's going to come where you are, you know, moving, shaking, doing your thing. You will have a much more stable foundation to work with. So like for me, when I was stuck in my hometown during the pandemic, I had a lot of time to really cultivate self-care practices that kept me anchored, okay? So meditation, journaling, exercising, being more aware and intuitive with my body, etc. Being intentional with how I spent my time, even if the time was just me doing fucking nothing, okay? Having non-negotiable hobbies. And that long stretch of time gave me enough space to be consistent in those practices and really feel like on a cellular level the way that my mind changed, the way that my body changed, my relationship to myself, etc. So when I moved back to Shanghai, which was so hectic, okay, like at the time I didn't have the mental space to really think about what I was getting myself into. I just had like tunnel vision and was like, I'm getting out of here and I'm going to do whatever it takes to figure out how to make this work. If I didn't have those non-negotiable hobbies, self-care practices, it would have been such a mind fuck, okay? Like I would have no protective bubble between my psyche and the environment that I was in. But those practices are what allowed me to recenter and re-anchor. When I look back at that time, the amount of shit that I went through and the amount of shit that I had to navigate, I don't even know how I did it, but I know how I did it because I meditated on a regular basis, I journaled and I thought dumped, I made sure that I had a non-negotiable hobby, and I was always checking in with myself and being as honest with myself as I could about the reality that I was faced with. Like when I first came back to Shanghai, it's so weird to like leave somewhere and then go back, like to leave somewhere that you have a life in, a reputation in, that you have relationships in. You leave against your will and then you come back and a part of you like hopes for it to be the way that it was when you left, but obviously time passes and people change and situations change and you've changed, and learning or figuring out how to navigate that is really overwhelming. So I had to deal with a lot of that when I came back. And I think that if I didn't have those self-care practices, I would be in like a way, way, way more toxic place than I am now. Like every day I wake up and I'm like so grateful that I made all the hard decisions to, say no to certain things, say yes to certain things, distance myself from certain people, invest more time and energy in others. And the clarity with which I was able to do that was only because of self-care practices, hot girl habits, meditation, journaling, non-negotiable hobby. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I hadn't had that flop era to prepare myself, okay? That time where I wasn't overstimulated, I didn't have as much responsibility, was essential, So having a flop era and being able to lean into it as well is also a privilege, because some people are just in survival mode. They don't have the time to think about how can I get some self-care practices? How can I get a non-negotiable hobby? They literally don't have the capacity to do that because of their circumstances. And I think that when you're in a flop era, you think too much about the material side of things or the superficial side of things. Like my life looks shitty compared to other people that I know, or compared to the influencers that I follow, or my life I don't have as many like expensive or like nice things. But that's really not what it's about. It's about your spiritual disposition, okay? And the time and energy that you have to actually interrogate your relationship with yourself. Not everybody has the opportunity to do that. So that's why I think it's so important that you take that opportunity where possible, because you have the privilege to learn about the human condition in such a deep and personal way that a lot of people don't get the opportunity to have. And only people who have that sort of knowledge can truly make like a transformative impact on how people live and how people see their relationship to life. Like you need to be able to set a standard for yourself and the relationships that you want, and for other people who might aspire to be hot and have fun. You are able to articulate to them like, hey, it's not just about the things that you buy, it's not just about how your life looks on an Instagram grid, it's also about how you feel and your experience of life, not just the way that you consume, okay? You can still enjoy consuming, but it can't just be that, you know? Hi, babes. I swear you rethink everything because the supermarket is the only place you can go. No, literally, me when I go back to Perth. I get the whole argument isn't good, but what about conflict with really good friends? I mean, for me, with my like close friendships, where I feel like, you know, we really love and support each other and we respect each other's agency, we don't really have like arguments between each other about how we treat one another, you know, like we are compatible in the way that we show up in friendship, which is why we're good friends, you know, and we might argue about topics, you know, like do or don't we enjoy euphoria? Do or don't we think that this person's behavior towards one of us was appropriate? But I think that what makes friendships like that so special is that it's not about how you treat each other. You're able to give each other space and agency, you know. I'm not like overly relying on my friend to regulate me and vice versa. But I know that, you know, if shit really goes down, that they'll be there for me and I'll be there for them. I think those are the most valuable types of friendships. Those are the most mature and sustainable friendships too. Any friendship where I feel like I have to go tit for tat and like argue about like how someone should have treated me or not, I just feel like it's not worth your time. Navigating a situation where someone is doing the most to be your friend, but you just don't vibe on a cellular level, like you see them regularly. Do you have any tips? Oh my God, that's so real. You just gotta be polite without giving too much indicator that you're available. You gotta be like, hi, good to see you. Yeah. I think that it's important at the beginning stages of friendship especially that there's like matched interest, you know. Asymmetry in the degree to which people want to get to know each other, I think is not good long term, you know. And I for me, I also feel like when someone is like overly keen to get to know me and I don't feel the same way, I feel like it's just like a game for them, you know. It's just like they just want to get your approval. They just want you to signal to them that you deem them as worthy or whatever thing is going on in their head. But that doesn't mean that they're actually going to be like considerate of you, you know. They're not even treating you like a person because they can't read the fact that you're not interested. That to me is just like, that shows the level of incompatibility just by virtue of the fact that you can't see eye to eye on being mutually interested in developing a friendship. You know what I mean? Conflict resolution with close friends is different because you know they have good intentions at heart and you can tell by how maturely they communicate. Exactly. In friendships, whenever I feel the hint of competitiveness either from my side or theirs, I cut them off or become just mutuals. I care about academics so much and it's competitive. Yes. Nobody ever talks about how girls love bum in early stages of friendships. Exactly. And that shit's scary, okay? I've had this happen to me before and I really don't like it and I don't have the time or energy for it anymore. Like, for me, personally, the friendships that I value the most are the ones that ended up being the most compatible are kind of the ones that I couldn't have predicted for, you know? Like, we met in maybe like a super random context, and we just kind of slowly got to know each other. It wasn't like we even thought so consciously about it, you know. But then the friendships where I felt like I was really being pursued by someone based on like their preconception of me, that shit always gets weird. Love bomb friendships are so unsustainable. Exactly. Just like in love as well. I went through this last year. I got freaked out when a new friend was overly eager to know every personal thing about me that I barely met them. Exactly. Like, once you get out of your early 20s, it's like no more of this like common trauma bonding, okay? I want to bond over the shit that we've gotten through, okay? Not what we're trying to get through. I think when you're in your 20s, it's like normal and natural to bond with people over what you're trying to get through, you know, like you're trying to get through coming to terms with your identity, coming to terms with your relationship with this and that, figuring out what your interests are. But then I think that once you get through your late 20s and early 30s, if you've really done the work, you want to be friends with people that have gotten through it, you know? You relate in the fact, you relate based on your resilience and your respect for each other's resilience, not shared victimhood. You know what I mean? Anyone that's like still in a victim mindset and still going through it, it's just like, we're just not going to be compatible, because all I'm going to be able to tell you is keep going. You can do this. And some people don't want to keep going. They don't want to get through it. They enjoy the attention and the pity that comes with identifying as a victim or as someone who's still going through it. And it's just like boring, you know, like, see ya. Do you have tips for dealing with an enabler matrix and triangulate? Okay. I'm aware of the triangulation matrix. I think that you just have to play dumb, or you just have to grey rock, okay? Which is, don't make yourself a target. Exit. For me, relationships are between two people, me and you. Anyone trying to bring in a third party to, I don't know, increase the stakes or to try to create like a competitive environment, I'm just not down for, okay? So triangulation is when someone brings in a third party, whether that's in friendship or family or whatever, to make another person jealous or to create competition. So it's like if you have a best friend and then she becomes friends with somebody else, and then she tries to pit you and her new friend against each other for her attention, that would be a form of triangulation. And I'm just not getting involved in that kind of thing, you know? I'm no longer friends with someone who is constantly putting herself in rushed, crappy, risky relationships with bad men and constantly whine to me about how it never works out for her. Exactly, it's just not the vibe. My sister is gaslighting me to protect her insecure fiance. How can we set financial boundaries with parents? The only thing you can do is distance yourself. Exactly. You have to distance yourself. Definitely an exit situation. If people are trying to manipulate you, I think it's really important to have a journaling practice and write down how you feel, okay? Write down what you observe, and you can also revisit it if you want to, or not revisit it, just so that you maintain a level of sanity. Like, don't just think about what people are doing to you, write it down, because then you're making it real to you in a way that the other person won't want you to. You know what I mean? So you need to clock, everything must be clocked from within as well. And for me, I think the best way to set boundaries indirectly is to always have something else that you prioritize, okay? You have to have things that you do for yourself that matter to you, that you can set boundaries around. Like, then you just naturally don't have the time and the resources to give to people who aren't going to appreciate it, you know? Like, I have non-negotiable hobbies. I enjoy my work. I have friendships I enjoy my time alone. If I had no friends tomorrow, I would still be okay, because I am my own bestie. It doesn't mean that I reject relationships entirely, but I know that I'm okay, and that I can always make new friends because I know what I bring to the table as a friend. So when you are able to do that, it's much easier to walk away from situations that aren't compatible with that just bring problems, okay? When you have peace to protect, you are not so welcoming of problems. So whatever boundary you're trying to set, it's just easy. You're just like, sorry, I'm busy doing this other thing, you know? You don't even have to lie. Because it's like, I literally don't have time for you. I don't have money for you because I need this money for my own life, okay? Get your own. if I don't have my journal, then I'm thought dumping in my nose. Exactly. Hobbies that you can do in a small town. You'd be surprised how much stuff is available in a small town. You know, I'm from like a set sort of small town. There's a lot of random things that people are doing out there. So look on Facebook, Google things, have your own hobby at home via YouTube. Do you have any tips on separating yourself from social media? I'm a super private person pursuing a creative public career. I need to make public socials. I think I always have one day a week where I don't go on TikTok or Instagram. So like every Monday, I don't go on to those platforms unless absolutely necessary for work. Because anyone that I'm close friends with, we have each other's personal contact. So I don't need to be on Instagram to talk to my close friends. I'm on Instagram to talk to my internet friends and my acquaintances and etc. And I think you should also have like write out a list of personal rules, like your own constitution for how you want to approach social media. What do you want to post about? What do you not want to post about? What types of people do you want to meet or be associated with online? Like you actually need to write it down, you know, what will you post about? What won't you post about? What will you engage with? What won't you engage with? You know, write that down, and you can always change and adjust your approach as you go. But I think that, you know, especially if you're pursuing a creative career, it's like a job, and every job needs to have its own job description. You know what I mean? Like, so a lot of people just go into social media thinking that it's just a part of life and it's just an extension of them, but you get to determine like to what extent are you extending yourself, you know? Struggle with being perceived. I also feel uneasy about the age of AI too. I wouldn't stress about it too much. Just do something and then adjust as you go, you know? You get used to being perceived, the more you are perceived, and then the more you are perceived, the more you realize that it doesn't really matter, because we're all gonna die, okay? As long as you're not like actively causing harm, everyone's gonna have something to say about you, whether you're being perceived or not, you know? She's definitely been enabling passive aggressive behavior at this point. I only have to live with them for 1 more month and then moving with my mum. Period. Okay. Then I wish you the best for the next month. Stay strong. Yeah, and just know that like the internet can never truly capture who you are, okay? Sure, you're on there and that people are perceiving you, but they're only perceiving like a fraction of who you really are. No one is around you 24/7. And every person that you come in contact with has a very specific experience of you, you know? And only you can understand the entirety of who you are. And when you accept that, you just take things a lot less personally, because people are going to make assumptions about you or whatever and fill in their own gaps, but they don't know you. Tips for handling passive aggression: just play dumb and be nice. People forget something the moment they scroll. People in real life who want you to be employed and making money won't hate on you. Exactly. You're so smart. I'm just like an older sister. Bless you. I'm obsessed with how I look. Negative fixations. It makes me isolate myself. How do I help myself? Books, meditation. Okay, I was actually just thinking the other day about how the best way to work on body dysmorphia for me is to always do things that involve moving my body. Okay, so for me, like pole dance and dance are such important practices for me, because I'm focused on appreciating my body and what it can do and not just how it looks. Okay, of course I still care about how I look, but when you are able to appreciate what your body is capable of and the way that your body, you know, becomes stronger or becomes more flexible, you become more coordinated, or you know how to look after yourself when you have an injury. Now you're focused on like experiencing your body and not just looking at your body. You know what I mean? You spend a lot less time picking at your body when you're focused on enjoying being able to embody yourself, you know? How do I fight the feeling of loneliness? Learn to be your own best friend. You need to be kind to yourself. Treat yourself like your own bestie. Speak to yourself like your own bestie. If it'll help someone, look, I have given up buying clothes or makeup. Is anyone having a look? Yes, I think enjoying how you move your body is important. Been trying to appreciate my muscle endurance and strength rather than just aesthetics. Build a healthier body image in relation to the gym. Yes. And I think sometimes, like for me personally, I'm not super into gym culture because I find it a little bit like depersonalized and like sterile. That's just me personally. So that's why I prefer to do things like yoga and dance, because I feel like those things are actually less about aesthetics. You would think that dance is about aesthetics, but you can approach dance in a way that's purely just like fun and recreational, in a way that I feel like you can't really do with the gym, because like the gym just isn't that fun. In my opinion, you know, like the gym can only be so fun when you're stuck in an air-conditioned room with a bunch of machines and people that are like counting calories and macros. I don't know if people in the dance studio are counting calories or macros or not. They might be, but that's not what we're there for, you know? We're there to have fun and to dance. So I think doing things that you enjoy in all areas of life is really important. And rather than thinking about how you can be less sad or be less lonely or endure less suffering, focus on how you can add more joy, okay? Shift your perspective to that. Microdose joy, microdose happiness, and then you will naturally have less time and energy to be sad. I really enjoy weight training in the gym. Prefer to cardio. Love that. Gym is so boring. I actually prefer doing boxing. Yes, just find the thing that you enjoy and that you can do the most consistently. It's not about doing the most optimized exercise. If you are not a professional athlete, you don't need to optimize your exercise. You just need to be able to do it consistently and to enjoy it. Developed a parasocial non-relationship with this one man, double my age, 3 months. He's literally a nobody. I didn't know why my brain did that. Scared of it happening again. You probably admire something about him. Yes, exactly. You probably want to be him. Figure out what you admire about him. Yes, still the swag. Well, cultivate your own swag in your own way. And one day you'll wake up and be like, oh my God, that guy's a freak. I want to try some classes once I move. Yes. Yeah. Usually you just admire something about them that you want for yourself, or they're doing something that you think is cool. Steal the swag, then remix. Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's so normal, especially for women as well. You know, like it is so difficult to assert yourself as an individual because people want you to just fit inside whatever little box they've decided that women have to be in. So anytime you step outside of that, or you want to do your own thing that people don't really understand, they're going to be like, no, you should be doing this. No, you should be doing that. Why aren't you doing it this way? So when you see a man that you assume, okay, you don't even know if he's truly authentic in the way he presents himself. Usually they aren't. You can feel like, oh my God, like he's so cool, blah, blah, blah. You want him to notice you because you think that that gives you a shortcut into being noticed for who you are, okay? And that's normal. It's just part of human nature. So it's just about recognizing that that's what you're going through and then taking steps to remedy it within yourself and not through the relationship. Because when you do it through the relationship, then it's never truly yours, you know? Like they could take that away at any minute, at any moment. They might change their mind, their aesthetic, whether they like you or not, and then you feel like that approval is taken away with them. So that's why you need to cultivate it within yourself, you know? He works at my dream hospital, my dream specialty. He's so mediocre. Exactly. It's not about him, but about what he's achieved and how much you want it. Exactly. And your proximity to him or him giving you attention does not give you a shortcut to achieving it for yourself. You know, like regardless of whether you received validation from him or not, your career is still in your own hands. He can't shortcut you through that. So remember that. Having the nicest black sesame roll with green tea. This chat is like, oh my god, yummy. Good night. Yeah, I think that's the most important thing to remember. It's natural to want a shortcut, to yearn for the shortcut, to wish for a shortcut, okay? Recognize that that part of you exists just by virtue of being a person, and also by the way that we're constantly being conditioned and marketed to. You know, everything is meant to seem like a shortcut to a better version of you when that's just an illusion, right? But when you wait, what the hell? My screen charges my computer? I didn't know that. But when you notice it and you accept it, then you're not going to overly invest in external things under the guise of it being a shortcut. You can just enjoy it for what it is, and knowing that you have to take responsibility for your own success, your own journey, your own self-empowerment, your own confidence, your own sense of self, okay? You're never going to be able to outsource that to another person, and any attempt to do so is going to end badly, because the whole point is to be reminded that you have to do it yourself. How often do you stream on here? Just whenever I can. No real schedule right now. I literally wrote a paper with him just to get his attention. He got shortcuts all his life. I think that's why. Bypassing, yeah. That's just men, you know, and at the end of the day, like, literally had to grieve the concept of a shortcut, exactly. You never know. Like, how great is he doing really? Because you pedestaled him and he was brought down from the pedestal so quickly. Now you think he's chopped. He went from being iconic to being chopped in such a short amount of time. So is he really doing that well? Okay, he couldn't even sustain the pedestal. Taking my power back, investing that energy brought me to places I couldn't even have imagined. Exactly. How can we grieve our shortcuts? By doing things that you enjoy and recognizing that anything worth having, anything that is truly going to bring you a sense of contentment is going to take effort, you know? Like when you meditate, for example, on a regular basis, you realize that there's no shortcut to meditation. You literally just have to sit down and do it, okay? There's nothing you can buy. There's nowhere you can go. There's no one you can know or be associated with that's going to make that process easier, because it truly is between you and yourself. The same thing when you have been consistent in a practice like going to the gym or going to yoga or learning dance, you realize that if you didn't show up, if you didn't make the commitment, you would not see any results. So it's about consistency and discipline. When you've actually practiced discipline to a degree where you've seen the benefits, you sow the seeds and you reap the benefits yourself, you realize that that's not something that you can buy. You just can't. It's not for sale. It's not available in the material world, okay? It exists only in here. Jump scare. You couldn't even sustain the pedestal when you were writing a book. Being married to the hustle is so real, exactly. I put in the work one baby step at a time in the direction pointed out to you by whoever you got obsessed with, and trust the process. Use it to fuel you, create from it, exactly. And when you do that and you're remixing it and doing it your own way, you realize that your journey is so specific to you, okay? So how is someone else going to really know what's right for you? Even the people that know you the best are going to miscalculate what is best for you, because only you're going to know, okay? And only you can try and experience things and then adjust accordingly. I get people telling me all the time what they think I should be doing based on how they know me, and I appreciate the feedback and it's important to hear, you know, but it doesn't mean that I have to follow every advice if it doesn't make sense to me, you know? But like, and ultimately, like, I enjoy my life, so the grief comes in that there's no shortcut, and then honoring it is the action from the desire. revealed to you. Exactly. You don't really need to grieve it because you realize that it's true for everyone, okay? Everyone's journey is different. Everyone's price is different. So you just need to figure out what yours is. It makes no difference for you to be able to calculate what someone else's is because you're not the one living their life. What if it's not a shortcut because I know I don't want their life or career, I just want to have a taste of it? Same thing. I hate unsolicited advice, especially from people whose lives I don't want, literally. Literally a few years away from retiring and my career hasn't even started yet. Why did this whole thing even happen? But it helped because now no one ever impresses me since he's at the top of our field. Yes, as an introvert this summer, I'm whimsy maxing. I'm excited for you. I'm an introvert too, but I cultivate extroversion so that I can have more fun, you know, but then I always return to my introverted self. Don't feel like you have to isolate as an introvert. I think that sometimes when people talk about introversion versus extroversion, the subtext is like people who like social connection versus people who don't. But I think underneath introversion and extroversion is a desire to connect, okay? It's just the way that you connect is different. You still value connection as an introvert. It's just that the way that you connect with people is different to people who are extroverted. Everyone, pay your respects to Girl Boss Ed Sheeran, please. I have to put myself out more because I forget I'm a DJ. Exactly. You gotta be out in the club, on the dance floor, talking to promoters. But you can do it in a way that's sustainable for you, you know, don't burn yourself out over it. Or get close enough to burnout to know what your limits are and then pull back. More whimsy, yes. Whimsy maxing. I think whimsy maxing is just having a sense of humor about life. Romanticizing. I don't want to encourage like romanticization to the point of delusion, but you know, practicing gratitude for the small things in life, enjoying the process of pouring yourself a glass of water, making yourself a tea, going for a walk, making a fun, silly purchase, enjoying a sweet treat, leaving funny comments, posting something silly, you know. Don't take life so seriously. Networking seems so scary. I'm going to art school in the fall. My dad keeps telling me I got to remember to network. What do you think of this? Man looks maxing. I think they deserve it. Okay, networking. I've never consciously been someone who networks, but I think that because I just show up and I always think about how I can make an experience maintain or improve, you know? So people just naturally want to get to know you or know who you are. That's more about networking. I think people think about networking again as if it's like a shortcut to success, but there's no point knowing a lot of people or a lot of people knowing you if you don't have anything to work with. You know what I mean? If your portfolio is empty and you know a bunch of people, that means nothing. They can't do anything for you until you've got work ready to sell or skills to sell. So focus on your craft first, prioritize that, and then have social time, go out, meet new people, and don't feel like you need to be a clout chaser or you need to social climb, because people can see through that, or people that are really authentic and about their craft can see through that. But if you want to be a clout chaser, by all means, it just depends like what type of person you are, what you want out of your career. But I think that focusing on your craft is really important so that there's value to being known, you know, like being known just for the sake of being known, kind of overrated, because now it's more about what people can get from you and not how people can support you and how you can collaborate and like grow. So I think networking just on its own is kind of pointless, or thinking about networking as like some kind of shortcut when you haven't mastered your craft is not that helpful. I have a friend who doesn't defend me in terrible situations justifies that by being an introvert. Do you think that's a valid reason when your friend is being disrespected? No, it's not a valid reason. I think that no, I don't. At bare minimum, I think behind the scenes, they need to be like, that was really fucked up. I'm sorry, I failed you in the moment. But if they kind of justify harm being done against you, then that's whack. But at the same time, you kind of need to take responsibility for your own life and like recognizing that no one can really save you either. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword in the sense that you're learning about your friend being a pussy, but you're also learning about how you also need to know how to defend yourself or how to walk away from shitty situations where you're not being respected. You know what I mean? Like, double-edged. Whimsy maxing is just like laughing in life, always being jolly, nonchalant. Yes, the real fun is being unserious. Yeah. Unserious, but on a foundation of gratitude, I would say. I'm an extrovert, defend myself always. She uses that more as an excuse, but it makes me feel hurt when she doesn't do anything. Personally, I don't think that your ability to defend yourself is contingent on whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. Lots of introverted people know how to stand up for themselves, even if they're not comfortable with it, because they, you know, believe in their right to assert their existence. That should be consistent, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. I think these labels are not helpful in this situation. But then also ask yourself, like, why are you getting into conflicts so regularly? You don't need to prove everyone wrong either. You know, if someone has disrespected you, the disrespect is the data, okay? Them being able to apologize, not apologize is kind of irrelevant at that point. You know what I mean? I don't think being a good friend has anything to do with the personality type. Exactly. People pleaser extroverts are famous for not defending themselves. Exactly. So I think I used to get into a lot of conflicts when I was younger because I took the injustice that I observed in the world as like a personal responsibility, which sometimes I still do, but like I try to channel it into like healthier outlets. And I would feel like I had to, you know, correct people in real time. But what do I really get out of that? Nothing, okay? That person just being able to say that they're wrong in the moment doesn't actually change anything. If anything, it just makes them feel more important. So, yeah. On the topic of looks maxing, I think that looks maxing is just a natural progression of patriarchal conditioning and men trying to cope with the fact that they have no purpose in life. They haven't been encouraged to cultivate a sense of interiority. It's this lack of interiority, lack of connection to interiority that makes them so image focused and so focused on the idea that their value can only come from their appearance, you know. And you observe the same thing in women as well. It's always women who lack interiority that become obsessed with their looks in a way that is detrimental to all other areas of their life. That is a function or a symptom of capitalism and consumerism and the way that people are conditioned in these sorts of societies. So the thing that annoys me the most about looks maxing is that when men are trying to critique it, they always turn it into a moral failing of the guy that's looks maxing and not like a real conversation about how he got there. You know, they're just like, you're dumb because you only care about your appearance. I don't care about my appearance and I'm doing fine. And it's like, use your fucking head and question the system that created an environment where men think like this. And also, you don't question the system that gets millions of women, okay, eating disorder, body dysmorphia. The fucking economy is literally held up by women's consumption of products and things and services that maintain their appearance. Until you're willing to question that for women, I don't give a fuck about what men are going through. Sorry. Looksing makes me giggle because women have historically had their insecurities within their appearance. Exactly. I hate when people make me feel crazy about consumerism. I mean, I do feel bad for them because these men, a lot of these guys are just so young and they clearly don't have healthy role models. Like, but I didn't create the system that made men so divorced from their interiority and divorced from the whimsy of life and being able to get a fucking interest or a personality. So what do you want me to do about it? I've got hours and hours of free content for anyone of any gender to watch, to learn about how to self-empower beyond just consumerism and patriarchy. But, you know, if people aren't open to me being the messenger, then I've done everything that I can do, okay? Men denying the harm the systems would perpetuate as usual. Exactly. I'm glad they found something to hyper focus on. Exactly. Worst part of looks maxing was it was a super niche community back in the day. Now it's everywhere. I don't have empathy for the guys. They can join running clubs. Yeah, I mean, I just feel sorry for them. I just pity them, you know. It's not my job to make them feel better. And even if it was my job, I've done plenty to provide resources that might help them. And I reference the work of a lot of men as well, you know, like a lot of the books that I talk about are written by men. So I'm like, if I could do it, you could do it. I took the initiative. I'm not even saying that they have to listen to women. They should just listen to men, actually, but they're so wrapped up in their own bullshit. Men are so used to thinking, if I do A and B, I will receive C. Exactly. Why should we feel bad? They have privilege. Yes, peptide accounts. DMing my young teen brother, that's so crazy. Women have their own problems, okay? So I don't know why we should be prioritizing the issues that men have created for themselves and women, actually. But I think that, you know, seeing the way that men respond to looks maxing, men who think they're morally above it, men who think that, you know, it's just these boys are dumb and they're just bad men or whatever, I think that says a lot about the lack of support that men have, you know. Bringing women into this is so ridiculous because a core tenet of looks maxing is doing it for women. Yes, and you know, a lot of women don't even really care that much. I think it's important for men to care about their appearance and to be presentable, okay? That is part of the very beginning stages of looks maxing men should be doing, okay? If they want a woman that looks a certain way and puts a certain level of effort into their appearance, I think men should also be doing that. But the idea that your value only comes from your appearance and it's not important to get a personality or to learn to show consideration for your fellow human or any person that you want to connect with, I don't know. That's just a skill issue, I think. They're smashing their faces with hammers. But they're not even smashing their faces with hammers. They're doing what essentially is just like gua sha. They're just going like this. It's not sad because think about all the things that women do on a regular basis to maintain their appearance. It's much more violent, okay? Like, so much of looks maxing is just the beginning stages, the basic tenets of what a lot of women do to maintain their appearance, okay? That's like child's play. Bone smashing, the fuck? That's gua sha. They're not getting nose jobs. They're not getting filler. They're just going to the gym and doing meth. I think the benefits of men's inferiority into development is too abstract. It's not a priority. Exactly. Yeah, because they want everything to be quantifiable, you know, like what is the ROI on a woman having an orgasm? Her wanting to have sex with you again? That's the ROI, babes. Do you think about that? Her wanting to be around you is the ROI. Idiot. Oh my God, like insane. But that's just capitalism, you know? That is just capitalism. Everything has to be measured and quantified. And I have this old video on TikTok that I reposted. I haven't been on TikTok for the last day, so I don't know what the update is. But I talked about how because we live in a man's world, from a man's POV, everything is assessed through the male point of view. So there are so many things that men can't account for in the female experience and what women have to offer. You know, how do you, like women's labor and women carrying children, birthing and nurturing the next generation of workers, that is not compensated labor, because a man doesn't know how to value that because he can't do it, you know, and they can't see beyond the ceiling of their own experience the way that women can, because women are more capable than men most of the time. The same thing with like the debate around sex work. It's like, how much is a woman's body worth to a man? You know, how do you price that? It's not quantifiable in the material world because it goes beyond just A plus B equals C, you know? How does man plus woman equal child, you know? Like that's like a beyond just material phenomena. You created a new soul. It's not just the two of you pass back and forth. It's like you created a new thing. Men don't really understand that. So if you live in a man's world, those things are not accounted for. And that's why you end up with things like misogyny. That's why you end up with looks maxing and this idea that like everything that you do has to have a material ROI. And that's also why I say that when you're engaging with men, you need to think about what you're getting materially out of it. Okay, because otherwise you're going to be spiritually depleted. That's what he comes to you for, okay? Like the way that men will be like, oh my God, I feel so recharged being around you. I feel so energized after we spend time together. It's because he's sucking your energy, okay? So you need to think about, are you able to operate as your best self as a result of this relationship or this engagement? Or does he deplete you and now you're less effective in other areas of your life that he can't assist you in? You know what I mean? They do meth because they think it helps them not age as much. Yes, everything has to be quantifiable and gains benefits, assessed in value. Absolutely bonkers, the lack of self-awareness. Exactly, they need to therapy max. They need to whimsy max. They need to whimsy max. Or they need to get bottomed. Those are my thoughts. But I think that, you know, it's about recognizing and connecting to the divine, to your spirit, to your existence beyond just the material, but also knowing when you're wheeling and dealing in the material world, okay? Just because you understand the whimsy and the privilege and the complexity of your experience doesn't mean the people that want something from you understand it or can even reciprocate, okay? So there are going to be people who come to you and they want to experience proximity to your whimsy, to the way that you live life, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be mutually beneficial for you. So you need to think carefully about what you're getting out of these situations, you know, and act accordingly. Yeah, because a lot of men can't even articulate what it is about women that they want and need so desperately, you know. But I've had enough conversations with men that it's the intangible things that women can do and predict for that men can't or don't want to do or don't have a natural inclination for, you know, like men that are like, oh, I prefer working in an office where there's women because they'll always make sure the office looks nice. They'll always plan events. When you're just working with men, they don't do anything fun. I want to live with a woman or have a female roommate because they're always cleaner. Okay, obviously there are some women that are dirty, but generally speaking, men are looking for the woman who can add whimsy to their life, okay? Add a feminine touch. That's what they value from women. So if you can provide that for someone, what are you getting in return? You need to ask yourself that, okay? If you are living dirty and disgusting, wondering what men can do for you, well, men probably don't even want you to begin with, so that's not a question you need to ask. But if you know what you bring to the table, you also need to see what else is on the table for you after you've given your share. When I hear Looks Maxing, I just picture one of those Red Pill podcasts. Yeah. I feel maternal towards Vicula, you know? He's just a baby. He's like only 20 something. His mind has been corrupted. And I don't know where his parents were, but, you know, telltale signs of a young boy who either like his parents kind of failed him or something happened to him and he wasn't able to articulate it, and now he's just like gone off the deep end. He's spiraling, trying to overcompensate for like one missed opportunity or one disappointment. He's so evil. I wonder what fucked him up so much. He's obsessed with eugenics. I think he's just got OCD. I think he just has OCD. You know? He's killing crocodiles? What? I'm turning 23 in August. Please tell me it gets better. It does. You just have to keep doing things that you enjoy. It starts so young. I've seen a 4 dressed in a t-shirt that says boys will be boys. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't really live in... I live in China, so... I swear he has OCD. He's obsessed with measurements. He doesn't even... Yes. He's obviously on the spectrum. And if you gave him something else to hyperfixate on, he would probably switch up. You know? He just hasn't been given an opportunity. He's been rewarded materially, financially, and, you know, according to what the patriarchy conditions men to value. Female attention, money, follower count, blah, blah, blah. So because he's been rewarded for this hyperfixation, he's not going to change it because it still benefits him the way he's been conditioned to value himself and his life. If he was given some other option that would benefit him in an alternative way or in the same way, but with a healthier outcome, then maybe he would change. I want to move to Hong Kong so bad to my phone. Well, he definitely should have had a better support structure. Yeah, like, where are his parents? That's scary to me. I saw this meme that was like, imagine having a son and then he grows up and does street interviews asking women for their body count. Like, if I had a son and he did that, he's getting smacked in the head. Firstly, he's not going to be doing that because I'm going to ensure that he's loved and sees value in his humanity beyond just body count. Because that conversation says so much about how men value themselves as well. How come when you sleep with a woman, her value goes down? you hate yourself, okay? If you really felt that you contributed anything valuable to a woman's life and to her experience as a woman when you sleep with her, you would not see that her value goes down by association with men, but you see yourself and you see men as so degenerate that that's the impact that you assume that men have on a woman. Hello? He's so interesting. He's convinced all these things he's doing is what made him attractive and not puberty. Right. That's so true. He was corrupted too early. And also nobody talks about like the pre-30 puberty that people go through as well. You know, puberty is not just something you experience when you're 15. Your body is actually constantly changing. You could get hotter or uglier at any point in life. It just depends on the types of choices that you make. Crazy. Okay, I've got to go. Thank you for joining today. I'm gonna have new videos up this week. I'm working on merch as well, so get excited for that. Hopefully it will launch, I wanna say next month. I'm thinking hat, shirts, and bag to start with. And yes, thank you for joining. Love you lots. Thank you for your questions, thoughts, feelings, topic suggestions. Let me know. Speak soon. Bye. Stay hot and having fun.